So what we're going to be focusing on today with Inspector Fusion using Autodesk Fusion 360 and Prodsmart and quality control is looking at a lot of things around quality control and the technologies we have available. So why are we here? Well, manufacturing is changing fast, and staying competitive requires efficient and quality processes regarding that. So as we go through today, we're going to be looking at different tools in the bag available, okay? And we're going to be focusing a lot on these criterias: quality assurance and quality control, two things that make up quality management systems. Now, quality assurance, as you know, is proactive. It's all about the process. It's aimed to prevent the defects along the process as you're actually creating product or processes. It's a planned, systematic activity. So, quality assurance is saying we're going to have a quality control event. We're going to have this operation that we're going to do, and also auditing to compare the expected results that we plan for versus the actual results. And it's traditionally organizational wide. Everybody's part of quality, right? When we look at quality control itself, it's more reactive. It really focuses on the product or project that you're putting out to identify defects. It really focuses on your operational techniques and how you go about them. The inspect to meet specifications sort of aspect. And it's really team-based, right? So I have a quality control department, I have an engineering department, people who are responsible for the reactive quality control of things. But we do all of this to ward off the evil Dr. Claw in his ISO audits. So we need to be able to have a paper trail or digital trail of some kind that says we did this, we planned these events, we did these things, and these are the results of those things. So our objectives today are going to discover inspection methods inside of Fusion 360. We're going to take a look at that, as well as traditional inspection methods as well. We're going to discover some single source data integrity with Fusion 360 Manage extension. We're going to learn how to use Prodsmart for quality tracking and analytics. Now, Prodsmart is an enormous product. There's a lot of things to it, but we're going to focus really just on quality and really how it's set up initially to get going. And we're going to learn about developing quality management workflows between Fusion 360 and Prodsmart. Now, that's a little bit smaller of a portion. We're going to hit that right at the end, but you're going to see really how those systems can start to come together. So as we start thinking about the right gadget, right? Inspector Gadget didn't just use every single gadget for every single response that he needed to do. He actually used the right gadget for the right thing. So as we start to look at pathways to digital inspection, we need to think about what is possible versus what is necessary. Do I need the helicopter? Do I need the magnifying glass? Do I need to show my badge? What is the required tool for this? So a lot of things we're going to see in here may be tools you already have. There might be tools you want to investigate for further development. But as we look at this, you'll start to see different ways to do similar things. Okay, so we're going to be taking a look primarily at Inventor Professional first, very quickly. We're going to look at Vault Professional as well, very quickly, and how that kind of plays into this conversation. We're going to focus a little bit more on Fusion 360, Fusion Teams, Fusion 360 Manage extension, and Prodsmart. So again, there might be aspects or pathways that you see in here which are beneficial to you, but other ones maybe are not. Again, what is possible versus what is necessary. Let's start off with Inventor. So Inventor has had the ability to create inspection documents for a very long time. It's just not that great, right? So inspection dimensions inside of Inventor allow you to, inside of a drawing, to place a dimension, change the type to an inspection dimension, where you can do a round or an angular type of shape to it. You can then label it as a non-critical or critical dimension and tell it what the inspection rate is. The problem with this methodology, and it's always been a problem, is it's not very functional for that collaborative effort. It's not very functional for internal or external quality processes to your teams. So with this, you're going to create a drawing in Inventor, and then you're going to save it as a PDF, or you're going to print it out, and it's going to become a piece of paper that travels around with a work order, or maybe gets put in a QC binder. It's not really tied digitally to anything. And if you wanted to do that, then it requires expensive licensing. It requires you to have an inventor license for those people to make changes or put something on a chart, things like that. And it also does a terrible job of creating any sort of first article inspection or report based on what you're trying to do. Now, in the past, we have done custom programming for clients that want to do first article inspection from Inventor, but what if there was already a tool that did it? And we're going to see some of that today. So inside of Inventor, this is more recent, 23 and 24, there was a Fusion 360 ribbon tab added and a command called send to Fusion, create a manual inspection. So you can do this right from Inventor, where your Inventor part file gets sent to Fusion Teams via your desktop connector. And once it's there, you can create a Fusion design from this. And there's two ways to do this. Either you want to create a stitch in time separate file, okay, that's when you say create Fusion design, or if you just want to utilize that design so that when an Inventor model changes, the Fusion model also updates using any CAD, then you can carry forward the changes. You would simply say open and start working on that. It does convert it, but it keeps that link between the files. Now, how does Vault Professional tie into all this? Well, Vault Professional can talk to Fusion Teams. It can send data to that. It does this via the job processor with the desktop connector on the job processor. And you can allow Vault to manage that passage of data. So when I release something, I want to say now send that part file into Fusion Teams so that it can be used in Fusion 360 for my inspections. You can schedule this, you can do a release bias, but once it's in Fusion, it's going to end up in the same boat. You know, you can create a new Fusion file, or you can use the existing one so it stays in sync with the Inventor model. So that's pretty interesting. So if you are in a Inventor and Vault Professional world, but you want to do more inspections with Fusion 360 or CAM tools, and you're becoming more Fusion 360 in your manufacturing side, this is how you could tie that together. So I've thrown around Fusion Teams a little bit already, and I always like to talk about it a little bit to make sure you understand what it is. First of all, it's a design team administration and data management hub. You get this with every single license of the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection and every single license of Fusion 360. They all have access to a Fusion Team Hub. If someone needs to be involved in this that doesn't have that licensing, like let's say quality control doesn't have a license of Fusion 360 or the Product Design Manufacturing Collection, you can get a participant license for a low cost so that they can access and collaborate and work inside of Fusion Teams as well. Or if you have people outside of your shop, you know, this is a cloud-based environment. You can invite people from outside your organization to be on your team. So they can send new models, new updates, new spec sheets that they're doing. Let's say you're fabricating off-site and they have documents that you need. That can all be added to Fusion Teams as a sole hub. And anyone with an Autodesk ID can be included in that. So once you have Fusion Teams installed, once you have the desktop connector installed, you'll get a drive on your computer called Fusion 360. I sometimes call this the Fusion drive, which sounds a little sci-fi-ish, but I think it's cool. But the Fusion 360 drive in your computer allows you to see all the different hubs you're involved in. There's also a web browser that will function inside of this as well. So you'll have a hub for that you can browse to your web browser. So once you're in Fusion Teams, here's a few things you can do. It is a native repository for all Fusion files. If you're using Fusion 360 at all, this is where they get stored. Okay. Initially, when you click Save, it puts it in that hub. You can change between different hubs and things like that. Different hubs have different modeling features capable as well. For instance, the new configurations in Fusion 360 are not available in your personal hub, but they're available in company team hubs, things of that nature. You can also store Inventor files, and it is complete with relationships here, which is pretty cool. You know, if you ever use like OneDrive or Dropbox to store files, it doesn't understand relationships. But Fusion Drive does. If you put Inventor files in here, it understands the uses, the where used, if drawings are attached to it, like this brake rotor. So if you are going to share and collaborate Inventor data, it's a great tool, well above and beyond those other ones I mentioned. You also have version control in here, so you can see previous versions of the files, you can create milestones, and more importantly, as you're collaborating, you can review, markup, and comment. So this uses the Forge viewer, so you can rotate and view and mark up things and inspect them, right? Someone could leave a comment that they feel like this is the wrong part, or are you sure about this design method, right? We think that's crazy, you need to change that, whatever. So you can do a fair amount inside of Fusion Teams. Definitely take a closer look at it if you haven't already. So let's get back to quality. Fusion 360 quality processes. What can we do inside of Fusion in regards to quality? Well, there's basically two levels you need to consider. One is the Fusion 360 core environment that you get with your product design and manufacturing collection, as well as base Fusion licensing. And with that, you do get work coordinate system setup and probing for machines, and you get the manual inspection that we're going to take a look at. If you go higher and buy the machining extension, which bolts onto the core Fusion, you can get geometry probing and surface inspection and part alignment, things that can really enhance your overall quality practices for assurance and control inside of your machines directly. As we start looking at inspections, let's look at the manual ones first. So once the file has been sent to Fusion, we open it up, we move into what's called a manufacturing environment. We create a command called create manual inspection. With this, we can create a sequence of inspection steps. It will actually rotate the camera for us and allows us to input what we want somebody to record. So this is the setup. This is where you start, right? Create manual inspection. I want to inspect this ID, this thickness, this manual inspection here, this surface quality, and then also have some inspector detail. You can do things here by taking measurements. You can do text input. You can do pass-fail operations. And you can actually set up multiple inspections for different people. So if you have an inspection that gets done at the first stage of manufacturing, you can create an inspection for that user. If you have a final inspection, you can create it at the final stage. And this is really designed for anyone using manual tools. So calipers, micrometers, height gauges, hole gauges. And if you have Bluetooth enabled ones, which I do here today, I'm going to use like a Bluetooth caliper. I can take the part, measure the value, and it automatically inputs the value into Fusion 360 for me via Bluetooth. Now, if we're going to look at things we would find in the machining extension, or even the Probe WCS, which is available in the core, this allows you to do some assurance testing well ahead of time, right? So maybe I want to make sure that my WCS from my machine is always in alignment, right? That way I'm not going to start a bad part from the jump. So very nice tool there just for quality assurance purposes. When you're starting to record things though for quality control, things like probing the geometry, inspecting the surface, those are tools which can actually allow you to switch out a tool, like say a milling end to a probe, and it will actually go in with your G-code and probe something. Once it probes it, it can record that measurement that you can use in a first article inspection report or in any way that you're trying to capture that data. There's some other aspects which are really nice to it as well, like tool wear, things like that, which you'll keep up on. And lastly, part alignment is great, again, more for assurance, making sure that when a part gets put in place that the alignment is the same every time, it's consistent. So it can take your setup time from 15 minutes down to 2 or 3 minutes and help identify scrap components at setup before you go too far. So jumping back to manual tools, right? So go ahead and taking like a digital caliper or some digital mics and basically starting the recording process. What you would do is you would actually right-click on the inspection and you would say, create a manual inspection. Once it's already created, you could edit it if you need to change it. But you're basically going to go through here and start grabbing that data. Once you've gone through and done these inspections, which I'm going to demonstrate this, mind you, you can actually run a report. And that report can be spit out to a PDF. And it operates as a great first article inspection type document. So you can see a sample there on the right-hand side. I got this little harmonica holder, and I have the document name, the measurement type, the geometric dimensions where it say it's in or outside of tolerance. I can see the individual results based on each one that I took. So the inspect ID, thickness, manual inspection, things of that nature. And you can also merge that together with your machining extension importing of the probing data. That can all be combined into one report, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I'm gonna launch into Inventor first, kind of rolling ourselves back, right? So here inside of Inventor, I want to take a look at a quick inspection dimension in case you've never done this, right? So in the drawing, you can go up here to annotate. You can create a dimension. Let's create another one from here to here. Again, just showing how you can do this very quickly. I'm going to edit the dimension. Let me bring my dialog box over. I'm going to say I'm going to create an inspection dimension. I'm going to use the rounded type here. This is going to be a critical dimension with a 10% inspection rate. And it basically creates that inspection dimension. Now, what does it do from here? Nothing, right? I could create a manual table that someone could come in here and fill out, but really I'm going to end up printing this, or I'm going to save it as a PDF, and someone's going to consume it and put it into some other document, okay? So how do I get this file to Fusion instead? Well, again, here inside of Inventor, across the top, I have multiple tabs. Here on the new Fusion 360 tab, again, this was added in 23 Inventor, I believe. 24 Inventor added the manual inspection, but I can go ahead and click this and it will send it up to Fusion 360. Once it's there, I can work with creating that manual inspection, okay? So man behind the curtain has finished. Here is my Inventor file inside of Fusion. And just looking over here briefly, here is my two files I'm going to work with, the AnyCAD file and the completed file. You can see the IPT did make its way up here. Okay, that was the initial pushing of the data here. If I right-clicked on that, this would create a non-connected design. If I just chose open, it'll basically allow me to modify that so the Inventor file updates, this file updates. Okay, let's go ahead and start looking at the manual inspection of this. So when you first come in here, you're started into the design tab, right? So you have all your design tools up here, like creation of features, you have automated modeling, you have configure options here because I'm in a configure tenant. But I want to move over to manufacturing. And this is something Core Fusion has, right? I can go ahead and choose from the design pull down and choose manufacture. Once here, this is where you would typically do all your milling and turning and additive, fabrication, all these different tabs up here, right? We're going to be looking at inspection though. And I'm going to go ahead and create a new manual inspection. Okay, this allows me to come in here and add something. I'm going to add this diameter right here. Okay, so I'll say measure diameter 1. I can assign tolerances to this and put comments to it. I can also record the camera position. So I'm going to rotate this so it looks a little bit nicer to someone who's going to take that measurement. Let's go ahead and zoom into right there. And I'll say record camera position. Okay. Now if I say okay, this is something to watch out for. It exits you out of the dialog box. You want to keep going, you got to hit the plus sign. Okay. So next up, I'll do a measurement from this flat face to this flat face. I'll call that thickness. Okay, again, you can have upper and lower tolerances there. Now for this one, I'm going to capture this from a little bit of an angle like this. Capture that camera angle. I'll say okay. And as you can see, it's going to start creating those manual inspections. If I need to go back and change it, simply right click and edit. Let's say this time we'll add instead of distance, we'll add a pass fail. This is a 3D printed part, so I'm going to say surface inspection. It's either going to be a pass or a fail. And I'll go to a wide shot for that. Capture. There we go. So you can see it keeps adding to that. Now, if I want to record the manual inspection, I'm going to get out my part here, and I'm actually going to grab my digital calipers quick. Okay, let's go over here to completed. So here is a manual inspection. I have check diameter, width, thickness, visual inspection, and a name entering. I want to actually do the recording now as someone who's doing the quality control. So again, under inspection, we're not going to create, we're going to record. You can choose it here, or you can right-click on the inspection and choose Record Manual Inspection. You can see it automatically angles the part based on my camera angle and make sure my cursor is there. But I'm gonna go ahead and capture this real quick. Okay, so that was my actual measurement. You can see that it does have a deviation and an error to that. It is recording the differences between the expected results and the error. Now, this is something that always catches me. I always want to click OK again, right? But if you want to go to this next one, you have to click next. Okay, so now I want to look at the width. You take another measurement here again real quick. Okay, that one's actually 78 on the nose. So that one, again, is also out of spec. Okay, I need to check the tolerances on my 3D printer, evidently. Next up, we'll go to thickness. Okay, that automatically inputted there. Not bad. Okay, visual inspection. Is this a pass or a fail? Well, looking at the part, I do have some layer lines on it, but I'm okay with that. It's good enough for what I'm doing. Let me say pass. And then next, enter my name. I want to know basically who performed this inspection. Now I can say okay, and I have a completed set of results. Okay, I do have some things that are showing out of spec based on color here. Pretty nice. But I'm ready to create a report for this guy. So I'm going to right click and say inspection report. This is also available, I believe, up here under actions. Yeah, inspection report. And I'm going to call this inspection results. And we'll just put the date on here, 12/7/12/19 today. This will be a PDF, and it's going to go to this location. This location is actually in my Fusion Drive environment or my Fusion Teams environment. You can also save it to your computer if you want, but I'm going to go ahead and click Save here. And it doesn't like the slashes, so let's remember that, shall we? Let's just say inspection results. That's fine for now, and save. Okay, so you can see inspection results actually showed up in my Fusion environment over here. I had one previously done, which was the harmonica results. I did that one at AU, but this is a new one that just got created. So I can go ahead and go to that one once it finishes. Cloud is always slower when you're in GoToMeeting. Let's go ahead and go to this one here instead. This will launch Fusion Teams. It will show me the PDF right inside of here. So I can click on it. And then anyone who's involved in my Fusion team environment can see this. It's something that can be consumed or downloaded or updated as need be. But this is my Fusion team environment. Okay. Here's my completed harmonica holder. Okay. This is used in these two different results. You can actually see them tied together. Okay. Over here on the right, you can actually start doing markups. You can view and manage the comments that you would see there. But again, nice collaborative environment. A lot of things you can do here. When you click on the file, even the 3D model, again, you can spin it and look it around. Again, someone who is not even in your company or in your team can be invited to this environment to do markups, to do measurements, to do comments and such. Okay. I'm going to close these off. All right. Let's jump back to our presentation. We're going to take a look at next is talking about managing the quality process. So most collaborative methods involve email, which we always know there's two types of people in the world, right? There's people that check every email, and there's people that just love to watch the counter rise. Or there's also paper methods. Maybe you have a job board that you pull from, and then you have an inbox, and people have to sort through all this data. Well, inevitably, when this happens, things get lost. The chief has to go dig through the trash to find these missing documents, or it has to go out and run down a work order somewhere, or get the manufacturing dust off of a paper traveler that was walking around. So how do we do this better? We do this better with the Fusion Manage extension. Okay, this is a bolt-on that goes onto Fusion Teams for you. It gets added to your extension tenant. For Teams. This allows you to do an instant on data management with these documents. Allows you to do capture, notify, and approval steps. You can have a digital audit trail of who did the approval process. And it is really true Fusion 360 revision control. A lot of people say, I'd love to have revision control in Fusion. That's great. You need the manage extension. That will actually create a release process for your Fusion designs. It'll create change orders for which you can follow. And since it's instant on, there's no advanced configuration or administration needed. You jump in and start using it. This is also available directly inside of Fusion 360 to create change orders and release things. You do have to keep in mind, though, that this is a separate hub, right? There's a personal hub, and there's a Fusion team hub, which this gets enabled onto. You can't have the manage extension on a personal hub. It has to be on a team hub. And you'll get a company tenant assigned to you from Autodesk when you create these things. Also, just a word of warning, personal hubs are eventually going away. So if you have stuff in a personal hub, get it out of there. Here's a little bit closer look at the manage extension tenant that I have. So there's two main things here. You have design and engineering, and then you have change management. We're going to focus on the latter. But under the design and engineering, you create items. The items have life cycles, revisions, part numbers, things like that. But focusing on change order creation, you want to start with giving it a title. Who are the approvers for this? What is the reason we are doing this change? There's an available pull-down list. You can choose some standard ones. What is the priority, and who is responsible for reviewing this? It's also worth mentioning that a change order, a lot of people don't think of change orders at the beginning of a process, but new product introduction is a change order of some kind. So a lot of things in Fusion Manage will start with new product introduction, and that would be a change order. Now, there's a lot of things you can do once the change order is created. You can see the affected items. In this case, I have 22 effective items. We're going to be working with a different product this time called a really annoying box. And it has multiple 3D printed parts to go together. So I can see all the affected items which are in a released or a work in progress state for their design. I can see due dates, material dispositions. I can also see the approval workflow. But more importantly is the attachments here. I can add things like the STL files, I can add the slicing files, I can add the inspection reports, I can add any sort of other collaboration that's attached to this type of product that needs to be contained together. So what you're seeing here is a much more fundamentally solid way to manage Fusion 360 data if that is your core design environment. When you look at the change order workflow, very straightforward, very similar to the Vault change order workflow, mind you, where you can just simply open, perform the work. Once it hits review, you can't go backwards other than returning it to open, okay? But it does create a lock state, and then once you approve and close it, then you're done. You can't reopen it. You have to go back and create a new change order, just like Vault. So when you start a new product introduction, you open it, you go to the work stage, you do all the work. And when I say all the work, I mean all the work. You do the quality control, you do the design, you do the slicing, you do the printing, you do all the work there. Once it's completed or you need to be approved, you go to the review state. So let's take a look at some of the things here with the Fusion Manage extension. And again, we're going to speed up a little bit here for time, but we're going to jump over to that tenant. So first of all, inside of Fusion, I mentioned it is in here, okay? The newer version of Fusion that they updated literally a week before my class at AU completely changed everything. It used to have a nice dashboard on the left-hand side, and they got rid of that. So now I have to go back over to, let's say, design here. And I have this manage tab. On manage, I can go in here and do things like assigning the item numbers. I can do a quick release with change order. And under process management, I can access the dashboard, the details, or change orders. When you choose these things like dashboard, go ahead and do a save here. It'll take you over to your hub and take you right into this. Now, I usually just have this bookmarked anyway, but that does take you from Fusion right over here. Okay, so I do have a manage hub for extension here for the Fusion tenant. And up here in the hamburger icon, I can click workspaces and I can see design and engineering and change management. So let's go ahead and start change management, change orders. I already have one existing for this really annoying box, but let's say I want to create a new one. Okay, you do put a title in here, you put your approvers in here. People who are involved in your team's environment can be added to this. The reason for change, this is a predefined list that you can choose from. So again, instant on, allows you to get going right away. I would say initial release, that's my new product introduction. Any sort of descriptions, any priorities, reviewers, these are all things you would fill in here, okay? Let's go back to my already created one. Okay. And you can see this one was created for an initial release. Myself and Caleb are approvers, and I have a change summary down below. I can also see statistics about how long it's been open. If I look over to my attachments, I can see that I've added an Excel spreadsheet, I have an STL, an SVG file used in the 3D printing process, and a slicing file that I use for my printers. So this is about everything I need except for my inspection report, which I can also add to this. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump back over to Fusion. Let's get into this file here. Okay, and we're going to be taking a little bit closer look at this in the next section with Prodsmart. Okay, let's go ahead and jump back to the presentation. So now looking at digital quality response and notification, how do we do efficient process tracking? Well, knowing when jobs have hit quality control is pretty important, right? You might be doing that again with a job board or someone that passes out the work travelers and such. And quality control recording is typically very manual at times. So you typically write something down, return that to the job board, or turn it to an inbox and say, go ahead and fill this out. Wouldn't it be nice if you knew where everything was in the process, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you knew when quality control started, when it finished, and what the results were without having to input data? Well, we definitely want to help out Penny in the brain, right? Penny being our quality control person, Brain being our actual worker that's doing the tasks. Both of these people are very important towards quality assurance, making sure that practices are followed during the manufacturing process and things are being recorded once they have been completed. From a technology standpoint, we're going to be taking a look at Prodsmart, which is a manufacturing execution system. So an MES is really any structure that monitors, tracks documents, and controls processes. You might be doing this in Excel. Your process might be paper-based. A paper-based MES is a thing, right? This is a digital MES though, and it allows you to tie into your Fusion 360 documents. It allows you to have on-time, accurate reporting for when things are actually happening because people are punching the clock when they do these activities. So if you look at a traditional production process, like what does it look like? Well, I might start a production work order, right? Then we do some material assignments, we start going through operations, and then we hit quality control. Once quality control is completed, we complete the order, we pack it, we return the work order, and then somebody has to enter the data. Well, if it hits quality control here, wouldn't it be nice to know if something was happening or if things were consistently happening so that I don't have a 3-day lag time of getting the report back, inputting the data, and trying to track down which of these operations or operators, maybe we're having problems creating the parts, right? But we're traditionally following a paper work order in this sense. So we might have scribbles on there. We might have that work order go missing somewhere and we have to call the IMAGINiT to go find it. We might have incomplete handoffs to different people who are either out on lunch break or sick or whatnot. We also might spill coffee on it. I'm sure that never happens, right? It happens all the time to me. So by the time you get this back, it looks like the document on the right. We might have different scribbles in here. We might have someone with bad handwriting or penmanship, not making things legible. We got our coffee cup stain. Someone wrote down a girl's phone number down here at the bottom. These are all things that might, add to this work order with don't make much sense, or you have to investigate or go track down, what this thing is. So when you have all these paper travelers and spreadsheets and whiteboards, you have all this manual data entry. And whenever you have this, you have delayed data capture, and therefore delayed visibility, which means, well, yeah, delayed problem solving. How do I fix something I didn't know was a problem until a couple days later, or until I could track down that employee to actually communicate with him about what was on this work order and challenges and things he's running into. So enter Prodsmart, a digital MES that allows real-time tracking of this information. This is another tool in Gadget's, in Gadget's bag. He doesn't have to track down the footprints of everybody. He already knows where it is. He already knows what's going on. There's a real-time feed about people starting jobs, starting quality control, starting machines, performing maintenance operations, things of that nature. You can see where orders are in the actual process, how many finished products I have. So again, just to reiterate, it is a real-time production job tracking software. It really allows you to enable and disseminate quality policies as well, which we're going to see. So let's say you have a quality control document that says, this is our standard, this is how we do things. And it's everybody's job to know this. You can actually enforce that through Prodsmart. When they log in, they'll be prompted to acknowledge the quality policies as they get updated or changed. You can see scrap and waste and rework as it's happening. It has Fusion 360 team integration. So when your model updates, that can be shown directly to a user on the floor. You can deliver work instruction directly to the operation from Fusion 360 teams. That's something you stored in there, or if you store it in Prodsmart. You can do maintenance logging and checklists. So let's say I need to run a lead screw lubrication on my printers every 1,000 print hours. Then I can be prompted for that and actually perform that operation and have a sign off for it. You can log quality control inspections into the entire process, which is a little bit more of our focus. Now, when you're starting to set up Prodsmart, this is a little bit of showing you how the donuts are made, right? There's a couple of things that are required to get going with Prodsmart. I spend a little bit more time here because it is a little bit newer technology to a lot of our audience. But when you start Prodsmart, you have to set up workers. Okay, so I'm going to use myself as a worker. Products, what are we making? We're making this really annoying box. Operations, what are we doing? Well, we're printing with an FDM printer, so that we're going to have an operator. You can also create machines. Like if I want to load one of my 3D printer machines in as a reference point to say the operation's being done on this machine, there's benefits to that. You also have to create then new production orders. You give a production order a code, a quantity, a name, start and due dates. And when workers begin any operation with Prodsmart, they're prompted to punch in their number and get going. That will then return the information to the feed on the dashboard that someone can watch and get notifications from and see what's going on, to see where jobs are at in the process and what's really going on. How much scrap is getting created? Do I have to restart these prints because they're failing? Things of that nature. When you look at a quality policy, I mentioned this can be something that is just thrown in your face as soon as you start Prodsmart. It definitely can be, so that people will say that, yep, I read it, check mark. I can tell the ISO auditor, everybody knows our quality control policy, our quality assurance policy, because when they sign in, they have to see it, right? You do get worker acknowledgements right inside of Prodsmart that says I acknowledged it, and I can move forward now into doing daily tasks and operations. When you look at work instructions, so this is what a worker would see inside of Prodsmart on the tablet, or if you're doing it through a tablet or a workstation interface. So when I start this work instruction, there's a step that says clean the print bed, okay? Tells you what to do, right? Maybe there's something around tool setup for a CNC machine, or something you have to do to get going for that worker. You need to tell Brain, hey Brain, this is how you do this, right? These are the steps you take in our quality assurance practice to make sure we get good parts when we're done. If you don't clean the bed, you might not get good layer adhesion and things might come off the bed. So these get assigned to the operations as they take place. If I start the FDM printing step, I'm presented with that work instruction. When we look at a quality inspection form, again, taking it from a paper base to a digital base, right? Penny's not happy about these things. When she goes to fill this out, it's always something that she has to find and print off more, go to a book, look at a print, all these different disparate pieces of truth that have to be acquired, right? Well, a better way to do this might be directly through Fusion, okay? So if quality control has a Fusion 360 license, they can go ahead and launch Fusion 360. They can perform the quality inspections there, but they can also have an integration right to Prodsmart. So here inside of Fusion 360, I have a Prodsmart integration up at the same time on the same screen. So it's going to ask me to check the model for ironing issues. Is there a Z banding? Go ahead and sign here after you've gone ahead and done the manual inspection inside of Fusion. So you can create a little bit more of a single place that people can do their work, especially in quality control. Now, as all this stuff gets performed, you know, all these quality inspections are taking place, all these operations, all the waste and rework that takes place. Prodsmart actually has analytics, which will go through here and start capturing this. You'll get the ability to put those into customized dashboards for what you want to see and how you want to see it. You can export that to different formats for auditing controls or auditing purposes, perhaps. But it basically gives you these nice dashboards and analytics directly inside the tool. So let's take a look at this. Let's jump over to Prodsmart. Okay. So this is my Prodsmart dashboard, and as an administrator, I have a lot of different things here down the left-hand side. But we're going to begin with quality. So let's go there. Under quality, I can have different checklists created that go into my quality policies and such. But when I look at the policy on its own, I have 4 different revision numbers, and this one is currently active. Okay. So if I go up here to my tablet main menu, this is how you can view Prodsmart from a computer. And I'm going to go ahead and punch the clock. Number 17 is my work number. And boom, I get hit in the face with the quality policy. So I better make sure I read through company XYZ quality policy. This is what we do. These are the terms used in our quality policy. You would read through this and you would confirm it. If someone confirmed it, now they can go about their job. Okay, they can't do that until they confirm that they've seen that. Over in Prodsmart, if I look at the revision here, down under worker acknowledgement, I can see that Mark has acknowledged the status. I'm still waiting on these other employees. Okay, if you know Caleb, Caleb's always running behind. He never gets that stuff signed in time, right? But I can see who's done this, okay? Now back over in this window, I can insert production. This allows me to enter into my production orders. I'm working on my AU 2023 work order, and I'm really making the annoying box here. I got 10 more to go, and I'm gonna go ahead and start this. These are my different operations that I have. I have FDM print, I have a deburring operation, a heat gun operation. If I start this one, I'll get those work order informations for cleaning the print bed. But over here on quality check, really again, our focus on some of the reactive things. I'm gonna go into that, and here it says check model for ironing issues. Is there a Z banding? Visually inspect the first layer. Launch Fusion 360, change the workspace to manufacturer, and basically do that work inside of Fusion, okay? So again, just thinking about this on its own first. Let's say you don't use Fusion for your inspection process, but you use Prodsmart for tracking. You can do it all right here. But if you want a cohesive environment, you can use Fusion 360 alongside it. So here inside of Fusion 360, I do have an add-in loaded under manufacturer. Let's go ahead and close that for a second. It is here under inspection, manage, production and management. And here's my Prodsmart right inside of Fusion, okay? So I'm gonna go here and do a record manual inspection. I'm sorry, this one right here, record manual. Let's go ahead and punch the clock. Worker is 17. Insert production. AU 2023. Again, just going to the same location I just showed you, and now we're doing a quality check. So here I got the box printed out on my desk, and I'm gonna check for ironing issues. They all look good to me, so let's give me a pass. Is there a Z banding? Yep, nope, I'm good there. So we're gonna pass on that. Visually inspect the first layer for nozzle, for gaps or nozzle drags. Well, I did have a little bit of a cosmetic problem on the bottom of this, so that's gonna be a fail. Okay, now launch Fusion 360. Go ahead and start the inspection process. All right, so let's go ahead and minimize some of this stuff so it's easier to work with. Box height, go ahead and capture my measurement there. But these, I'm not gonna bust out my calipers. I'm just gonna go right through these real quick. I'm gonna say that's captured. We're gonna say this one is 150, so we'll say that's out of spec. back into that. Oop. Make sure it's selected. Okay, there we go. So again, 50.25, we'll say we're good there. Actually, I took this measurement wrong, that's why I canceled it. So that's actually 148. Here we go, we'll just capture those two. So once you've done capturing your measurements, you can go ahead and say sign here, and I'm gonna sign with my mouse. Might as well be a doctor. Say confirm. And that one has been completed. Now what's been happening in Prodsmart is it's actually capturing these things. Okay, so let me go back up here to the dashboard. It says Mark started production on quality check, really annoying box. Mark is currently working on that. So I can actually see this order as it's going through. This order is currently about 33% done. My quality is actually doing pretty good on this, right? Because I just had that one problem. But I can launch into my analytics and start taking a look at quality and issues I might have on certain production orders. And I didn't choose the right production order there, but it would update based on the correct selection. So there's a fair amount you can get here as far as reactive information, but also things are happening as they are happening, you get results. This nice dashboard. And come to think of dashboards, I didn't do a good job of showing on Fusion Manage, but there's also a dashboard here. If I go back to Home, you can see everything that's currently your outstanding work, your bookmarks, things of that nature. But now that I've completed everything inside of Fusion 360, I've done things inside of Prodsmart, it's ready for me to close out that change order, right? So I'm gonna go here to my change order I was working on. And we're gonna go ahead and fast track the approval. All right, you can see it's now locked and it's engineering approved. Okay. So let's jump back over to our PowerPoint here. So at the end of this, again, we're kind of over just a little bit on time, but what we did today is we examined some different inspection methods, not only in Inventor, which a lot of you already have, but also Fusion 360, which you have but may not be using. So we saw a lot of that. We also learned about developing some quality management workflows between Fusion 360 and Prodsmart, how you can connect some of those things. There actually is the ability to import your Fusion designs right into Prodsmart. It's one of the built-in integrations. We also learned how to use Prodsmart for quality tracking and analytics, and we understood some single source data integrity with Fusion 360 Manage, how you can have everything keyed off of one manageable extension that can be involved for multiple team members. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we're going to cease the lecture and demonstration portion and open this up to questions and Q&A. Laura, you want to take it from here?